From Stuff Here Projects. Thrifty P. Community, entertainment, business, life. This is Stuff Here Projects. This is the Projects Cast.
Hello and welcome to this podcast. This podcast is going to be about YouTubers. It's going to be centered around two particular YouTubers, and I'll hand you guys over, you listeners, over to Chelsey, who'll be able to, or my co-star Chelsey-Ann, who can introduce herself and also explain what the podcast is going to be about.
Yes, so first of all, I like that you included the Ann part of my name because not many people do that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Yes, so the YouTubers that we will be talking about are Mrs. actually, Julia Zelg and her wife Eileen DeFriest. So just to give a bit of background about why I'm talking about them, the thing is, YouTubers have a lot of scandals, right? Like, I can't think of many YouTubers who haven't had at least one controversy. It's just a part of YouTube at this point, unfortunately. But these two stood out to me in particular just because I find them so fascinating, to be honest. They're like a train wreck, you know. It's like you can't look away after a certain point. And I think it's also sad to me because, especially sad to me, because I made like a personal connection in my mind anyway. I can't remember when I actually first started watching Julia. I think it's been a couple of years anyway. But I couldn't say specifically. Maybe I was just searching up for like YouTubers with alternative fashion or something like that. In fact, I think I found her music first. I watched her music videos and I thought, wow, she looks so cool, you know. Like, I loved her brightly coloured hair. I loved the way that she dressed. And at the time, I actually thought she was a great singer. I'm not so sure now. But, so then I discovered, she has a YouTube channel. She does vlogs. She does makeup, hair videos, fashion videos. So I got really into that. And then I guess what happened was, because at the time I think that I was watching her, she was with a woman called Maria. That was her old girlfriend, and there was also an age gap between them. I'm not sure how old Maria was. I think she was in her 50s, so there was still like a significant age gap. But I was like, whatever, I'm not really gonna judge. She seems fine. But then they broke up, and that, to me, is kind of where things changed, I think, for a lot of people, to be honest. Because it seemed that almost as soon as she and Maria broke up, she was introducing her new girlfriend, Eileen. And Eileen was even older than Maria, I believe, because she is now, I think, 61 or 62, and so it's a 37-year age gap, which was quite shocking for me, as open-minded, you know, as I consider myself to be. I still found that shocking, but I thought, you know what, Eileen seems quite nice. I don't really agree with her politics, but she seems to have a career in politics at least, or so I thought at the time. So I thought, let's, give her a chance. And then when Julia announced she was going to be performing a gig in London, which she did do occasionally, I thought, this is my chance to meet her. I'll go along. So, I got my ticket. I actually had to, I think, DM Julia personally to ask her for a ticket, which I was very nervous about doing, because I get nervous about, like, speaking to YouTubers. But I did it, and I went, and I was extremely shy and anxious because there were so many people. Well, not that there were so many people there. I just get anxious in those sort of spaces anyway. I actually had to wait for Julia to come over to me to talk to me. I wasn't able to go over to her, and luckily she did come over. and we had a hug and we took a photo together, and
Nice.
yeah, and then Eileen came over, and the most ironic thing is that now one of the things we criticize Eileen for is how often she's on her phone instead of talking to her wife. She's not the most present of people. I was on my phone because I was feeling anxious, but obviously nobody's going to realize that. And so she was joking to me about how I shouldn't be on my phone, which now has just irony to it. But anyway, it was all like a laugh anyway. And so I went home feeling happy that I'd met pretty much my favorite YouTuber at the time.
Yeah.
Things just changed when Julia and Eileen went to America and Eileen was arrested, and that's when I think a lot of people started to think differently about Eileen, and she suddenly seemed quite an unsavory character. And now, unfortunately, I can't say that Julia is one of my favourite YouTubers at all. In fact, she's probably my least favourite YouTuber, and it's sad, especially now thinking back about meeting her. It's sad to talk about, It's sad to think about that girl, she's not really there anymore. She's like an empty shell of who that girl was. So I don't want to leave it on a sad note like that, but that's basically pretty much the background.
So that's your background. Now, both of these two ladies I was not aware of until you told me their story and told me about them. So I'm always keen to learn about new YouTubers and new creators and interesting personalities, which these two certainly seem to be. And obviously you've been able to give me a bit of a background as well. And then I followed... that allowed me to be able to research and see some of the points you'd made. And I was able to see a couple of things that you pointed out, such as the change in the content that was being delivered. Right, was the thing she was originally known for, was it her singing?
I'd say a bit of both. Yeah, I'd say her singing and her YouTube videos. I couldn't really put one above the other in terms of what she was known for, because she's still not a huge YouTuber. This is the thing. I think she acts like it personally, but she's not. I remember it felt like the other day when she was celebrating 100,000 subscribers. So she's never been a huge YouTuber as it is.
But the reason why I ask is because for research purposes, I was going through her videos and I was picking kind of at random, like sort of you go every third one, or just so you get like quite a few, but obviously she's got hundreds, I couldn't watch them all, so I just tried to watch as many as I can regularly. And I never once went on to a singing one. I couldn't find anywhere she was doing singing. I don't know why I was missing them. So I didn't know that she had output and she'd become more the YouTuber personality rather than a singer.
Well, that's basically what's happened. Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like she's given up music altogether. Now, I get the feeling some people are happy about that, but I personally think it was great that at least she was doing something worthwhile and fulfilling. But yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on to the main, controversy?
Obviously, there's her wife to take into account as well. What I found is personally Irene. No, it's Eileen, isn't it? I was going to say Irene. Yeah. Eileen. Yeah.
Some people say Irene.
Come on, Eileen. Oh, no, it's Irene. Yeah, come on, Eileen. I felt that Eileen's videos really personally weren't for me. They weren't of interest for me, if you know what I mean. The topic she was covering, I mean, she's obviously a female and they tended to relate more to female. I mean, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because I was guilty of watching many makeup videos from many females at one point. A phase that I went through. We by a YouTuber we won't mention here, but she's well known for that. Yeah, a very mainstream one with the expensive calendar, remember?
Well, the thing is, with her, I know the podcast isn't about her, but the thing is with her, I think it's just because, like, her type of makeup is outdated now. It's not very, exciting. People want more complex tutorials. it seems, or at least that's what YouTubers think we want. So her style, it was kind of its time, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's that.
Whereas with Julia's, there were some bits of content that I could say, oh yeah, I can see why this is enjoyable, and that obviously things like the hair tutorials, the dye and everything, you know, I can obviously see there's a place for that. Yeah. And when I looked at those older videos, I could especially see why you sort of would have followed her, even without actually witnessing any of her singing. I could certainly see why you would follow her and why she would have the followers she did, but. I guess we'll get onto this, and as we've touched on, her videos began to change, and they seem to be less about what people would have originally signed up for, if that makes sense.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah, so I was thinking, shall we talk about, because I've got notes to talk about Eileen as an individual, Julia as an individual, and then their relationship together. Which one do you think we should start off with?
I think we should start with Julia and then go to Eileen after.
Yeah, sure. So with Julia, I used to think she was a very sweet girl, honestly. I looked up to her. In fact, I was jealous of her because to me, like, I say had because she's made some changes, unfortunately, to her appearance, but I thought she had the perfect body for a woman. I really did. Like, that is how I would want my body to look like, ideally. So I was even jealous of her, and it kind of bothered me when she kept saying, like, oh, I have no boobs, because it's like, because I'm just over here and I'm like, you've got like the perfect size of boobs, like, what are you talking about? Like,
That actions speak louder than words, as it were. So if she is all very well saying you are these things and you support these things, but if you're not backing them up with actions, you can't really claim to be almost vegan or almost vegetarian if you're eating plenty of products that contradict that, meat products. Um, yeah, I don't really know. I do kind of know, I guess, but where the sort of symbolism of women not shaving their armpits came as a massive sort of feminine. I get the meaning behind it,
Yeah.
and I guess if you want to use that symbol, or maybe you don't, maybe some women don't want to shave them anywhere. That's fine, but if that's all you're doing, it's you know what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like why should we care? Like you're not saving anyone by doing that. It's a statement, yes, but to me it's not really doing anything. It's well, yeah, because it came from, women are expected to do these things, so it's like when we don't do those things, or we're rebelling. But at the same time, people don't care nearly as much as she seems to think that they would. I mean, to be honest, Eileen also has this issue of fake feminism and fake activism, but we can get onto the Eileen side of things. It just feels like Julia's picking up on trends. To me, that's what it feels like. It feels more like just a trend thing. I think, and yeah, that does bother me, but I think what bothers me more is how she portrays mental health as well. So obviously a lot of the issue with the things that they do is because they have such a young audience, a lot of children and teenagers, young women watching them. That's a lot of the issue. And so when Julia does things such as announce that she is on antidepressants, and then also is shown drinking in every video, that's a problem, because that's promoting a dangerous behavior. It's saying, oh, it's absolutely fine and safe to get drunk while you're on antidepressants, when it's not.
No, that's it.
At all. And that shouldn't be promoted.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a serious point. Yeah.
Yes, and one of the other things, see that there's too many at this point. Greed as well. Maybe this part should have been in the points about their relationship, but greed in terms of always saying that she's broke. Again, it's another thing which will rub people the wrong way. People who are actually broke, especially during this time. It feels so insensitive to be complaining about being broke while you're living in a flat in Chelsea, and you have been on like 5 holidays in the past year, and you were going to go on more if it wasn't for lockdown. I have no sympathy for that. I really don't. I mean, she gets so many clothes for free as it is. She doesn't even need to pay for a lot of things, I don't know if you noticed, but she, when you were looking at videos, but she often gets clothes from Dolls Kill. They send clothes to her. I don't know if you heard that brand name being mentioned.
I have, yeah.
You have, yeah. I don't know how much you know about Dolls Kill as a brand.
No, I don't actually know anything. I've just seen it brand.
Okay, yeah, because I actually, when I first started watching Julia, I wanted all of these clothes from Dolls Kill. I thought they looked so cool, but unfortunately, more recently, I've heard things about how they've been doing some dodgy things, shall we say, including stealing art, for example. And yet Julia continues to work with them when she's fully aware of all of these things. But it's not an issue because she's getting things for free, So why would she stop?
Yeah.
I've definitely had an issue with with the sponsorships that she's had, that's for sure. Another one was she did a... Have you heard about these teas that you're supposed to drink and they'll make you lose weight?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Have you heard about all of the problems with them?
Well, no, I'm a bit confused, to be honest with you, because I I like herbal teas and I drink teas and that, and they all have, yeah, they have their own natural properties that can help. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe some might be able to help with losing weight when you think. But I'm a bit confused. What is the story behind these kind of teas? So have these got other stuff mixed in?
So they're not good for you, basically. They're more of a gimmick. They're not good for your health. They don't actually make you lose weight. They basically just make you go to the toilet more. From what I understand, that's how they work, and celebrities have gotten in trouble for promoting these, because again, the people on social media, so many young people, young impressionable people who have issues with their bodies. Like, I can't imagine what if 2 years ago, when I didn't know about any of these things, when I looked up to Julian and thought she had the perfect body, I would have seen that and felt so bad about myself, because she was saying, all you have to do to look like me is drink these teas, and I'd be like, well, I'm never gonna look like her. So it's not a responsible thing to be promoting by any means. So we've so far we've gone through her body image, which is also her sexualization of herself. And we've also talked about her fake activism, and her portrayal of mental health. And then the one more thing I wanted to mention, two more things actually. One was, did you see any story times on her channel?
No, I don't recall. No.
Because she was actually known for those.
Oh.
She was a storytime YouTuber, partially.
Oh.
I don't know about you. Have you ever been into like storytime YouTubers?
Wait, what do you actually mean by story time?
As in when they tell you a story that usually has some drama in it, like another YouTuber.
No. I'll be honest with you, not my shout too much, unless it was somebody I really, really liked, or the story was genuinely interesting. If they're down to earth YouTubers, then maybe I could tolerate it, but it can all be a bit he said, she said. It's like gossipy and not my thing, though, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I pretty much agree with you, but like you, if it's someone I really like where I watch every one of their videos, then I'm fine with their story times, because I'm more inclined to believe the story anyway, and it has more of a point to it. Like, for example, one of the YouTubers who I'll mention at the end has been one of my favourites is Molly Burke. I don't know if you've heard of her.
No, your name sounds familiar. I'm not sure if I know her.
Well, she's a blind woman, so she makes videos about how she, deals with everything as a blind woman. And her story times are more along the lines of, this is a time when I faced discrimination due to my disability. Or this is how I got my latest guide dog, for example. So it's a bit less dramatic.
They're more worthwhile. They're not, they're not gossipy. No, that's different. Yeah, I would find ones like that more interesting.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I prefer. And but Julia, see, I was quite naive when I was younger. Well, I still am in some ways, but I just believed everything she said in her story times. I thought, why wouldn't it be true? Why would she lie to me? But now I know, of course, YouTubers lie all the time. But that's just how I thought at the time. But from things I've read, it now sounds like actually, they may not have been truth, and that the thing is, there's always two sides to every story. So either way, there was always going to be another perspective on the situation. And I found a comment on one of on a YouTube video about Julia Selk, criticizing her, which actually relates to this. So the I guess the story time I have the biggest problem with is when Julia was planning her wedding with Eileen. She wanted to make wedding invites to give out to her guests. So she wanted to pay someone to make those and make them look really nice. And so she, from what I remember of the story, she either contacted a fan or was contacted by a fan who said, I'll make the cards for you and this is how much I'll charge and all of that. So Julia was like, great, let's do that. And the way Julia portrayed it was that the fan basically messed her around and never ended up making the cards and cost Julia £50. So she lost out on £50 because the fan didn't come through for her. Now it now seems that actually she was probably being a bit harsh to the fan, because I found this comment. So this is under a critique video about Julia Selk, and it says, she, as in Julia, was nasty to me, knowing I was struggling with mental health and my mum with terminal cancer, so I do not have any sympathy. Now, I have a strong suspicion that was written by the girl, the fan who was meant to make the wedding cards. So that kind of confirms to me even more that Julia did not portray that event very fairly. Because if that's true, and this was a fan who was struggling with her mental health and her mum dying of cancer, why would you expect someone to then have on their mind about wedding cards, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that kind of stuck with me, and that's why I kind of saved that comment, because it bothered me, to be honest.
Understandably. That was a very interesting... It's why we can't always take a word that's given as for, straight away. What's it they say about taking something at face value? Yeah. It's like I always say about don't matter if it's TV, newspaper, whatever medium it is, just because somebody said something, you always have to remember that this might not be true. So it's interesting. It's good. Definitely sounds like it's worth keeping an open mind on that one.
Absolutely. I'm not saying like, oh, this is the first time a YouTuber has made up a story time or stretched the truth. No, of course not. It happens all the time, but it's just disappointing to see, because it's something I never realised about Julia. I just took her word for everything that, these things happen to her, the same way I take the word for it now with the YouTubers that I like when they tell story times. Even those, might not completely be true. So yeah, it's just something disappointing. So before we move on to Eileen as a person, do you have any more thoughts about Julia?
I mean, I think you've summed up well sort of what I began to notice from watching her videos, because obviously you know her in a lot more detail than I do, but I've combined with what you've told me, what you've shown me, and the videos I've looked at myself. Because there were a few points that I would make to do with her videos, but I feel that they should probably be mentioned when we talk about, after talking about Eileen, because it involves both of them. So I hold on to those.
So Eileen, so let me ask you, what did you learn about Eileen so far?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like I said before, as a YouTuber, unless I was looking at the wrong videos, again, I handpicked some every so often. There wouldn't be for me. I mean, some of the content was fine, but there weren't like a personality that jumped out for me that would be interesting to me, if that makes sense. Whereas with Julia, especially with the older ones, I could see, oh well, here's a fun personality, likeable personality. Yes, I could see the appeal there. And this is, I want to make clear, this is nothing to do with Eileen, like personally, nothing to do with her age, because in my head I'll get this constant thing that's saying it about her age, just because obviously there's an age difference and she's an older lady. That my mind is nothing to do with that. It's just going on her as a YouTuber. You know, YouTubers I watch YouTubers much older than her, but no, it's just there wasn't anything that jumps out. You know, there's got to be something that jumps out, isn't there? Yeah. So for me, there weren't not too much for me to grab onto as a YouTuber there. So to be honest, my opinion, like answer to sort of how I sort of am thinking of her would be based more on how she is with Julia, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. That's totally fair.
Yeah, so I'll detail that further once we get back to them as a two. So I guess see what you could explain what your thoughts are based as a YouTuber and however else, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, like I said, when I first saw Eileen, I thought she seemed fine. I thought, oh, she's probably quite intelligent because of the way that she speaks. I've completely changed my mind on all of that now. Like, it's crazy. But it's weird. It's like, because her appearance has changed a lot over time. She's basically morphed into Julia. She started out as this woman in her 60s who actually looked younger than her age because she had dark hair, which really suited her. She was dressed very respectably. Now she has, at the moment, bright purple hair, which does not suit her at all, and she basically dresses like a plus size Julia. It's strange, and I don't even want to begin to like getting into the psychology of why that's happened. But it's like she's regressed in a way, if that makes sense. So, but to be honest, by the time I met her, I was starting to suspect that maybe she was sexist, because at that time she was still pretending to have a political career, and I just noticed the things she said about men. And there was one which I think we talked about, not on the podcast, one comment in particular about, because she and Julia were reading hate comments, as they call it, and basically, I think because of the age gap, one person in the YouTube comment section accused Eileen of being a paedophile, and she said, no, I can't be a paedophile because most paedophiles are men. Yes, a few can be women, she said, but they are mostly men, and they are your husbands, they are your brothers, they are your sons. And the more I think about that comment, the more it bothers me. I mean, you know how I am anyway. I hate sexism wherever it comes from, no matter which gender. I can't stand it, and it especially grates on me when women are sexist towards men, just because you'd think we'd have learnt from having sexism, you know, put on us, not to do it back to people, but you know. But yeah, so by the time I met her, I was starting to wonder if she was a man hater, and but then I saw her like greeting this man, I don't know who he was, but greeting him really warmly and hugging him, and they seemed to be good friends, and I thought, oh, well, she has friends who are men, so maybe she doesn't hate men. Now I feel like that was a little bit naive of me, because that's kind of like the equivalent of when people say, I'm not racist, I've got like a black friend, you know. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not sexist just because you have a male friend. It's probably more like he's an exception to her for whatever reason. So yeah, and now I've gone completely the other way in terms of her politics. I mean, it's just very it's very shallow. There's not really any substance to it at all, to be honest, and I very much disagree with the way that she speaks about any straight white man, really. Apparently they're the devil these days, so You're included in that, unfortunately.
Yeah, kind of criminal.
Yeah.
But, well, no, I don't want to say used to that because there's definitely more people who get a lot more criticism. But yeah, it is a comment you do hear regularly.
Yeah, you shouldn't be used to it though. This is the thing. You shouldn't be used to that.
No, I guess really that shouldn't actually be the case.
Yeah, but I was kind of willing to look past the fact that she's sexist, because I thought, okay, well, at least she's still got some other nice things about her, right? Or so I thought. And then, of course, the whole thing happened where she and Julia went to America for a holiday and she got arrested at the airport. So do you know anything or much about that? Because that's kind of where the tide turned.
Yeah, no, I don't know why.
Okay, so I don't know all the criminal details, but basically, and this is something she talked about on her channel actually. So essentially, I think it was 14 years ago. So bearing in mind, she was still a grown woman 14 years ago because she's 60 something now. But that's important to mention. So about 14 years ago, she was in America because obviously she is American. And she rented a car, and at the time I think she said she was struggling with like mental illness and prescription drug addiction. And so she never returned the car, basically. And so there was a warrant out for her arrest if she was ever to come back to America or to that particular state. So as soon as she did, she was arrested. And the whole thing was just portrayed so poorly on both of their channels. On Eileen's YouTube channel, she was just making excuse after excuse, you know, not taking accountability for anything she'd done. On Julia's channel, Julia practically turned it into a performance. She was making videos like, let's vlog my wife's trip to the court, and things like that. And it was just so cheap. And yeah, so that's when I really started to be put off. And I mean, online there's things about other criminal things she's done. I think it's some kind of fraud as well. She's had multiple aliases, so multiple names. Yeah, and she what was the other thing that she did? Oh yeah, she claimed to have never been married before, Julia, and obviously she claims to hate men, but she was actually married to a man at one point. So what's that all about? So it's just a complete mess in that way. Like, it's just lie after lie after lie, essentially, and it just got so tiring. So that's the criminal side of things, and that's, you know, the political side of things. In terms of her actual YouTube channel, that's an issue too. Now, I did watch her YouTube channel because I wanted to support Julia, and I found Eileen's video semi-interesting. Even though I am a woman, I still couldn't really relate to it because it's also, even more specifically than woman, I guess it's also more related to gay women. So I wasn't really able to relate in that way.
No.
But I did understand, actually, when Julia got upset because Julia was, and now still is, editing Eileen's videos because Eileen isn't willing to learn how to edit, clearly. And Julia had to basically edit a video in which Eileen talks about how amazing her ex-girlfriends were for 40 minutes. Now, I completely understand getting upset at that. I'm thinking, putting myself in my shoes, that I would not be happy at all. Like, it's completely fine to mention your exes in some capacity, of course. But it's the way she spoke about her past relationships as if they were so wonderful and beautiful, and I can't imagine talking like that about, you know, a past relationship when you're with someone else, to be honest. So I
Yeah.
was kind of on Julia's side. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's kind of understandable to get upset about, or is it like you shouldn't?
No,
I don't
I
know.
think
I think there's definitely an understandable side to it. Yeah, that obviously it's an individual's right to talk about their exes if they want to, on even on a platform such as YouTube, because although they're kind of they're obviously a couple, and also they join their YouTube videos together, they appear on each other's channel. They're also meant to be doing their individual things as well, so I can see that. But then, if she's well, if Julia's also got to edit a video that's about her girlfriend's or wife's exes, that's understandable if that's a bit of a difficult one.
Yeah, so I did understand that because I get some people saying, well, Julia should understand that since she's so much younger than her wife is going to have had a lot of other relationships before her. And that's true, but, at the same time, it's just the way she spoke about them. It was just too much detail, too unnecessary. And besides, I feel like to be honest, I think I did start watching the clock when I was watching Eileen's videos, to be honest, because they did drag and on for quite some time. And also I just had an issue with the way she portrayed things. Like, she would talk about a relationship as if it was so magical, and yet she would gloss over the fact that they were cheating. So as in she was going out with a woman who had a boyfriend or even a husband. And she would just completely gloss over that, like, no, it's not cheating, it's fine. And obviously that bothered me as well.
That leaves a bit of a bad taste, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then Eileen just frankly just stopped uploading for months on end, and as she claimed she was learning to edit. But I don't believe that she ever attempted that personally, because for one thing, it doesn't take that long to edit a video where you're literally just talking. It's not like you're putting in any kind of, special effects. Frankly, it just seems like pure laziness to me. And now Julia's agreed to start editing her videos again anyway, so I guess Eileen won. But that's getting into the relationship side of things anyway. Before we do go on to the relationship side of things, I just wanted to mention how rude Eileen is as well. Like, she really had me thinking that she was a nice, polite person at first, but then the way she talks to fans is so aggressive. It's crazy to me, because these are your wife's fans. These are your fans, and yet you're dismissing everything they have to say as hate just because it doesn't, agree with you completely. That just completely sealed the deal for me, to be honest.
Hate on anything that is not being agreed upon. Like, if somebody doesn't agree with it and then they say, right, well, they're a hater, that's, I hate it when it's used in that context.
I really hate that. I'm saying hate, but yeah, I do hate that, because it's so easy to dismiss constructive criticism as... And they always dismiss it in the same way. They always say, oh, you only hate us because we're gay, or because we're in an age gap relationship, as if those are the only two reasons, especially in 2020, that we could ever hate someone. Sure, that's it. Like, no, that was never the issue. Although I do think there is an issue with the age gap, but we can get onto that later. But like, them being gay was never the issue. It's them being gay is not the issue. The issue is them exploiting their relationship. The age gap isn't the issue. It's the predatory nature. It's so, it's not the things that we can't change about ourselves. It's the things that we can change and that we choose to put out there onto the internet. So that is the lovely Eileen.
And also, when you mentioned about her disappearing for a long while before uploading videos, she has a habit on some of Julia's videos of I think maybe the right way to put it is trying to make out that she's more active than she actually is.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is I managed to pick that up from only watching a few of each person's videos. So I'm sure everyone else must have been aware of us. I even caught a couple of comments. Oh, we have to get onto the comments because there's something to comment on about the comments, isn't there? But
Yeah, true.
yeah, but even I noticed, I spotted a few comments where they were commenting on how she hadn't been uploading and she's been a bit cheeky by making out that she's often uploading. So I don't know if she's just being naive or she's trying to trick people to she's just be a bit more honest, shouldn't she?
I don't know what it is. Honestly, it's very strange to me. It's just I just have to call it laziness. Like I don't normally like making those kind of judgments about people I don't know, but I'm not sure any other way to put it. At this point, I don't want to be nice about her because she's done so much harm. I just
Yeah, because she's got a lot of subscribers. It doesn't have to be
and those all came from Julia.
Yeah, because she's got a lot of subscribers. It doesn't mean you have to be uploading every day or even every week. Yeah, but you do have to, you should be working to keep them, because I always think it's a bit unfair on those who have so much fewer subscribers and fewer hits, but they put more work into their content.
Exactly. There's just no excuse. She doesn't work as much as she claims to. Like, I believed that she did have a political career, but then I realized her version of having a political career was appearing on BBC Radio like twice in her life. It's just she wants people to think, it seems, that she's this busy career woman, when in fact she's got literally all day to make something of herself, and she's had her whole life to make something of herself, but she hasn't. So I'm sorry, but I find it especially difficult to have sympathy for Eileen because I do think she's quite detestable at this point.
Very interesting. Well, that will probably move us nicely on to talk about them together. So it's as a couple, both in terms of their literal sense as a couple, their relationship, and also as YouTubers, because I think there's things to discuss. Now, where to start on this?
Where do you think we should start?
I mean, first of all, with their YouTube videos, they obviously appear on each other's channel. Isn't it more Eileen will appear on Julia's channel rather than the other way around? I think on those.
Hardly uploads
anyway.
That's
now, here's the thing that I got. So that let's talk about the videos when they're both appearing in the video. What do you think what's your main thoughts when they both appear in the video?
Yeah, so before I was completely turned off from them, before I, officially unsubscribed or anything like that, the main thing with me was that I couldn't stand the constant affection. For example, the constant kissing. But I thought, before I saw anyone else complain about that, I thought it was just because I hate that in general. Like, I hate, I'm so bad with it to the point where, I hate any type of romance in any movie or TV show that I watch. If people start holding hands, I just want to leave the room at that point. I don't know why I'm like that. It's this weird thing I have. But it's weird because I am a romantic person. But I for some reason I can't stand it. So I thought that was my own personal weird thing about myself. It was only until other people started saying, please call it with the constant kissing every 5 seconds, I was like, maybe it's something to complain about. But I don't know if that's something you noticed. I think you've put it well. Actually, it does seem over the top. Like, the thing is, I know everyone's relationship is different, so I always then compare to my own relationship. Like, what would I do? But for me personally, I don't feel I wouldn't feel the need to have to keep showing it. Like, what's the point of showing it? Like, I know that I like him. That's enough for me, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you for listening to part 1, and you can listen to part 2 by clicking the link below the first podcast.